are going to talk about last night's State of the Union address and an article that was written in USA Today about a by a woman who thought that the United States hockey victory was indoctrinating the youth of today, and also have a couple other news stories and some updates on the show. So, if you want to stick around because the show starts right now.
It's KB's unemployed sheet. He's unemployed and didn't know what to do, so he started a shame. Talks about stuff to kill time. He didn't know what to call it, so he called it KB's unemployed show.
Yes, it is KB's Unemployed Show. I said State of the Union, and I already saw one person dropped off the feed. So, what are you going to do about that? A lot going on, and I never get political. I don't think that there is a time or a place. I grew up in the age of our parents saying you don't talk about politics or religion, right? And so I generally don't. But what I will talk about today is bad behavior and stuff that I just cannot wrap my head around. Why people behave the way they do, why, and who's looking out for whom. What it has come down to with me, and I will get into this a little bit more in more depth after I go through a couple of news articles, is that the role of Congress is to serve the people, and that just flat out ain't happening. Um, they are the most self-serving, narcissistic pieces of shit that I've ever witnessed in my life, and I will go through some details about this because I am sickened by it. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm completely sickened by it. And I am not going to make any comments at all about where I stand on any issues politically because you know what? You guys don't care. I mean, you can figure out where I do. But what upsets me about all this is not the issues. It is not the issues at all. Everyone is entitled to believe what they believe. Okay. It's the way they act and the hypocrisy and the bullshit that they throw at you when they get caught being hypocritical. And that is both sides of the aisle. Both sides of the aisle. I will come back to that in a moment. But in a couple of news updates, I'm loving these. Bill Gates finally came clear. He finally came clean on the Epstein files. He met with his staffers and he addressed his links to Jeffrey Epstein. And saying, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I know him. And I had affairs with 2 Russian women when I was married to my ex-wife, Melinda Gates. Melinda cashed into the tune of about $42 billion on those 2 affairs. So, Bill, I hope that was some pretty good tail that you nailed because that is an awful lot of money. It would have been, cheaper just to get hookers or strippers. But he held this town hall with his employee at the Gates Foundation, which is so funny. I run a foundation, but I'm kind of a slime ball. And he said, yeah, I spent time with Epstein domestically and abroad, but I didn't participate in any crime. But again, he admitted to having those affairs with Russian women. He said, I did nothing illicit. I saw nothing illicit. To be clear, I never spent time with any of the victims, the women around him. While one could argue that those Russian women were victims. I mean, look at him, for God's sakes. It's Bill Gates. The only reason his wife is halfway good looking and she married him is because he was worth $100 and some billion, for God's sakes. Otherwise, if he didn't hook up with her, his whole life would be hookers. And I wouldn't doubt it if his whole life hasn't been hookers up to that point and after it. But he said that this is what I love. He goes, to be clear, I never spent any time with the victims. I had affairs with a Russian bridge player Okay. Nobody plays bridge anymore. Nobody. Literally nobody plays bridge games. They used to. Used to go to the newspaper and they'd have the column right there, the bridge column, how to play bridge. I know my parents played bridge. My mom was a big bridge player. I know Sue's parents played bridge, and I remember her dad trying to teach us one time, and I was like, "Nah, I'm just not into this thing." So one of them was a Russian bridge player, and the other one, I love this, and the other one was a Russian nuclear physicist who I met through business activities. I have never seen like a pictorial in Playboy of the women of nuclear physics. American, international, Russian, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and I'm passing judgment on that, and I'm going to make a stereotypical. I'm going to make a stereotype here, and I'm going to say that most nuclear physicists aren't hot at all. So if you think that the nuclear physicist wasn't a plant, no, I guarantee you that she was a hooker. And in a statement, a spokesman for Gates said the allegations are absurd and completely false. But this is a guy that I love seeing show up in the files. And he showed up with photos nearly 250 times. And that's my boy Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, a picture came out of the Epstein files of him. Well, the only thing he could do would be lay on a lounge chair next to a pool in the Caribbean at a Ritz-Carlton. And he's laying on, one of those pool cots, if you will. And next to him, two bikini-clad women. Now, their heads, their whole face was blocked off, so we couldn't tell who they were. But they were posing with him with those big hurricane drinks, big old, colored drinks with big straws coming out of them. And they were kind of leaning in. I guess Stephen Hawking was smiling as much as he can. A representative of his estate told the Daily Mail that, they were his long-term caregivers. And he posed for the image. He posed for the picture after having delivered a speech on quantum cosmology at a science symposium that was sponsored by Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, yeah, I'm believing that. I am buying that 100%, that Epstein is just throwing symposiums on quantum cosmology. Sure, I didn't know that was a little side interest of his. They also, Hawking's people also refused to answer question about Hawking's friendship with Epstein. And whether it was common practice for Hawking's caretakers to tend to him in swimsuits while enjoying cocktails. I'll tell you what, this is quite simple the way I'm going to look at this. Stephen Hawking is a miracle of humanity, a genius, an absolute freaking genius, right? His mind works in ways that we could never imagine. And one of the most amazing things is that he has lived for more than 50. He has lived with more than 50 years with ALS, which is such a debilitating and devastating and gut-wrenching disease. I had a friend whose brother died of that, and it's just heartbreaking. Stephen Hawking lived 50 years. He required around-the-clock care from a team of nurses for most of his adult life. If I'm Stephen Hawking and I want my caregivers to be hot and in a bathing suit, F&A right, they're going to be hot and in a bathing suit. And if I want them to have cocktails, you're damn right they're going to have cocktails. And if I want them to give me cocktails through a sippy cup, they're going to give me cocktails through a sippy cup. Why? Because I've got ALS, for God's sakes. Of course I must have some hot-looking tail around me if I can. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm going to go out with a smile on my face, for God's sakes. And if he's with Epstein, he shouldn't be. But, if Epstein's going to, it didn't say that he's with underage kids. Now, if anyone was with someone underage, even Stephen Hawking, that is unforgivable. Okay. But if he's just pulling tail for Stephen Hawking, what's wrong with that? I don't have a problem with it. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate comments on today's show. But you know what? I really don't care, because we have gone from the point of being, I guess you could say, virtuous, to being absolutely clinically insane with some of the things that people are believing. One of my favorite sporting events concluded this weekend. It's called the Florida Man Games. I think they've only done this for 3 years. Of course, it was founded, 3 years. It was founded in 2023 by a guy who evolved it from, the running joke of Florida Man, which shows up in the news all the time. And really, it is almost every time it's a Florida Man. I did say to my wife, I go, what if we moved to Florida? Because there's no state taxes, right? But we didn't go. What if we went inland Florida? Somewhere, in the northern part of Florida, over by the Panhandle, and one of those little towns there. And then I realized, in looking at it, it's the inland part of Florida that all the Florida men come from. And I don't know if I could live that redneck. But the guy who founded it his name is Pete Melfi. And they drew about 5,000 spectators, which is more than a WNBA game in many cities. Nonetheless, attendance has been up every year, and it's pretty incredible and continuing to grow. 12 teams, they compete in teams. They showed up from across the state. And they were competing in a lineup of events that really fit the Florida Man persona. The day kicked off with a challenge dubbed Naked Rampage, where contestants were fully clothed and used pool noodles to knock over rows of plastic flamingos. Good opening. It's a good opening event. I don't know what they open with in the decathlon. Maybe it's the 440 or something like that. Start off, get a little warmed up, get your blood flowing a little bit. And then they have other events. I love this one, bull whips and bad decisions, where competitors are attempting to snap beer cans off their opponent's belts using whips inside the closed ring. And someone is cutting them in the nuts. They're clipping them right in the nutsack. It is. It's happening. Some guy's getting one right in the jubblies. Another crowd favorite is a grocery store fight, where teams reach to loaded shopping carts with hurricane supplies and actively sabotaging their opponents. Man, I would love to be throwing some drinks back, trying to come up with these events. I can only imagine that this had to be absolutely hysterical. And then they added a few new events. In one challenge, teammates worked together to funnel liquid through a deer prop into a waiting cup. Meanwhile, they had blindfolded laser tag. This is awesome. It's not laser tag, blindfolded taser tag, where the participants, the men, used cattle prods. And if you got hit with the cattle prod while you were blindfolded, you're out. I love that. I know there aren't any transgender people trying to make the jump over to these games. Then they had Team Hanky Spanky was the winner. They heading into the final events. No, they finished second. Heading into the final events, it came down to a high-speed obstacle course, which ended with competitors attempting to remove a catalytic converter from beneath a vehicle before sprinting away from law enforcement officers. The Redneck Olympics, the Florida Games, were this weekend. Here's one that you usually hear coming from men, but you don't always hear this one coming from a woman's side of it. We're all familiar with the Bruce Springsteen song, Hungry Heart. Got a wife and kids in Baltimore, Jack. Went out for a ride and never went back. Well, North Carolina mom of 3 vanished more than 2 decades ago. She ditched her family because of ongoing domestic issues. Her name is Michelle Lind Hunley Smith. Disappeared in December of 2001 after leaving her home to go Christmas shopping at a Kmart in Virginia. She left and never came back. The police sheriff, or the sheriff, Sam Page, didn't give specifics about the quote unquote domestic issues, but noted that the sheriff's office had no incidents reported of any domestic issues at the household. And there were no allegations of foul play of her leaving. She disappeared. Multiple agencies across North Carolina, Virginia, including the FBI, chose to search for her for weeks and pursue multiple investigative leads. At the time, missing person flyers everywhere, had billboards, the whole 9 yards. And then she was found alive and well at an undisclosed location in North Carolina after officers received a tip. Her family has been notified that she was found. One of her daughters said, my opinions and feelings about this, I'm kind of ecstatic, happy to have mom back, but I'm also heartbroken. I'm all over the map. I don't know what my relationship would be, but my mom is only human, just as we all are. And that's a weird one, because you see guys doing it all the time, but you really don't ever see women doing it. But they're back together. We'll follow up on that story. Hopefully everyone has a wonderful Merry Christmas. One of the hottest things right now, and this is what I don't understand oftentimes, why people go crazy over this. Punch the Monkey. Are you familiar? Punch the Monkey, the 7-month-old macaque that is in a Japanese zoo, was sadly abandoned by her siblings and her mother. And so was all alone and lonely. And the workers at the zoo gave them this stuffed orangutan from IKEA. And it went viral because everyone in the world saw this little baby monkey hugging this orangutan and pretending that it was his mom, which is so touching. But yet you show someone homeless kids and they're like, that sucks, but we'll go nuts over this monkey, right? So much so that IKEA is out of these monkeys. You can't find them anywhere. And of course, America takes over. And a guy from Allen, Texas, bought 17 of them and is selling them on eBay for $52. People are scrambling to get these, and one person has it listed on eBay for $350. Okay. Where, these are the same people that are bitching about the prices being too high in grocery stores, but we're going to drop $350 on a stuffed animal because look at how cute he is with the little monkey. Unbelievable. But that's Merca. That is Merca. That's all I can say about that. But getting on to it, this is something that, I have been very straightforward talking about how great the USA hockey team victory was and how it was so refreshing. I even did a couple of shorts, and I'm going to read a comment from a guy. Did a couple of shorts about it on YouTube. And how it made everyone in the bar really proud to watch the Americans win. And it's really rare, unless it's your own home team, that you're in a bar and everyone is on the same page, right? I'm sure there could have been Canadians in there, and no one was abusing them at all. But everyone was tied together on this. Everyone, when the goal went in, people went crazy. As I said the other day, I remarked about this the other day. I had Sue was talking to a young man next to us who was a Marine, and came out to watch. And when the United States won, there were tears in his eyes, and being proud to be American. And I don't know where everything changed. And quite honestly, I don't really care where it changed, but how you can't be proud of your own country anymore. Every country's got problems, right? Ours has a lot of problems, but to just turn your back on it, it's not anything that is value based. It's based in narcissism. And I'm going to get into that for a little bit, because it drives me absolutely crazy. Because there's an article came out for USA Today that I'm going to go through, and I want to break it down. But this was a great moment. And the other great moment that I felt just as uplifting about was watching the U.S. women's hockey team and Megan Keller scoring the final goal of that game, right? I felt the same. The only difference was I wasn't in a bar with a whole group of people, but I was just as excited at home when that happened. So, of course, I put my post out there. And I did a couple of posts. One of them I titled, because this is what they tell you to do. You have to do titles that are clickbait. And I am not into clickbait at all. But if you want to get followers, you got to use clickbait titles, right? So the clickbait title that I use is LeBron wouldn't say this, but Jack Hughes did. And I was referring to Jack Hughes coming out afterwards. And the first things out of his mouth were, man, this was, and I'm paraphrasing, because if I don't get it exactly correct, someone is going to go on the comments of this and tell me what a F-head I am. But basically, it's so proud to be an American. It's a great day. We're so proud of our country, so proud of the boys on the team. This win was spectacular. Basically put the United States first. And I'm thinking, there's no way. There's no way NBA players. And I did an exhaustive search of the internet, and I could not find, after winning the gold medal, a single NBA player responding with that kind of enthusiasm. And that's what led me to the whole hockey players are built just different. And they are. And if you look at any of those teams, if you go back and watch that game, okay, at the end, they make the team stay out on the ice because the losing team has to get their medal. So the Canadian team had to get the silver medal, and they have to stay out on the ice. And I guarantee you they didn't want to. Okay, they really probably didn't want to. When a team wins the Stanley Cup, if it's on your opponent's ice, if you win, and it's not a home game, those guys go right to the locker room. If you win and it is a home game, the losing team goes right to the locker room, right? That's their moment. It's different in the Olympics. But if you watch the end of that game, and I suggest that you do, go back when they take shots of the Canadian team. And these guys were heartbroken, not because of the loss necessarily, but you could, and I'm sure, obviously they were, but you could tell that it was a different type of heartbreak. It was a heartbreak that was all about, I let my country down. There's a level of pride that is much, much higher with that. And leave it to USA Today, a day after. I mean, we'll just celebrate for a day, and then, we're going to get to MF and people. So there's a woman by the name of Mary Clark. You don't even have to look her up. But I'm not going to be so cruel. But when this broke on social media, someone tracked down a picture of her, and the response overwhelmingly was, of course she looks like that. So draw your own conclusions. But the article, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read parts of it, because I just look at this and go, does everything have to be a fucking arguing point? That you can't just enjoy something anymore? That's why I want to have shirts made that say, can't anything ever just be okay? Why does there always have to be a counterpoint? There wasn't a counterpoint when we won in 1980, right? It was 46 years since the U.S. won a gold medal in 1980. 46 years, right? And when they won in 1980, it was one of the most unifying things in the world, ever. It was one of the most unifying things in the country. And if you watch the documentaries, they talk about how America was on a downswing, how Americans didn't have faith in their own country. You could argue the same thing is happening today. And what it did, what it did was this win bonded everyone. It pulled everyone together. And you would certainly hope that, sports and the Olympics, because it's the American team, would pull everybody together and we would revel in the joy. Oh, but no, not in this day and age. You have to come out right away and start MFing somebody because I'm going to tell you what's wrong with the way you acted. So the woman, Mary Clark, says, I grew up loving Miracle. I wasn't born yet when the United States stunned the Soviet Union. Okay, so you have no point of reference. Okay, I'm going to break down this article. But I knew the story as if it were my own lived memory. No, you saw the movie. Okay, you saw the movie. The movie is a moving movie, but it's not living through it. It's not the same as living through it. It's not the same as every night watching Nightline, what ended up being Nightline, and knowing there were hostages in Iran, right? And how the United States had literally no respect around the world. Now that you watched the movie didn't touch on that, Mayor. But she says, I was alive for Sidney Crosby's goal for Canada at the 2010 Winter Olympics. All right, whatever. As a teenage Flyers fan who saw her greatest NHL rival score for her greatest international rival, the goal broke my heart. Okay, fine. So she goes on, I don't know what this has to do with anything. She says, to see the United States men's hockey team finally win gold in my lifetime was a dream come true. Good. What has happened since is nothing short of a disappointment. What, Mary? What? That's not enough for you? Dear God. And she goes on, and this is the stuff that gets me crazy because, you know what? I don't know, like I said, when did we all just start hating America? Right? We got our problems, but we're not fucking Mexico. I got a buddy who is stuck down in Puerto Vallarta, right? Can't get out of the country, for God's sakes. He's down there with his wife. He can't get out of the country. But no, we gotta just go and point out how bad America is and how good you are. And that's the thing about this writing. It's not, when they write stuff like this, it's not to say how bad things are, because you know what? The stuff isn't all that bad. But what it is a way for them to write something and go, look at how more advanced I am than you. Look at how more intelligent I am than you. Right? So she goes on and says, as a celebration from the 2-1 overtime win, spilled off the ice behind closed doors. Here we go. This is only a third paragraph. They get to it. FBI Director Kash Patel joined the team. And in the video, he's seen celebrating and drinking beer with the team. Okay. Love this. Whose victory came on the same day an armed man breached the perimeter at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. Okay. You know what? You're the same type of person that would probably revel in the joy of Trump being assassinated. Right? But now, all of a sudden, because you got to write about it, Kash Patel, he should have been at his desk doing his business. That's what everyone's saying. Why is he there? He should have been there. He should have been there on the taxpayer's dime. Really? Okay. You know, you want to go tit for tat, and you don't, because you can. First of all, something people need to know is the United States government always sends a diplomat or somebody to the games to represent the country. Democratic presidents have done it. Republican presidents have done it. It's part of the deal. So he's over there. So did on taxpayer money. Okay, whatever. Okay. Then go back and just absolutely rake everybody else for doing it up until this point. And says, the FBI has taken the lead investigating the incident. But like I said, you'd probably be doing backflips if someone at Mar-a-Lago was injured and say things like, well, had it coming, like the way they did about Charlie Kirk. Then she goes on about the phone call, and that's what triggered her, the phone call, where he says, I must tell you, Trump calls and he's talking to the guys and he says, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that, don't you? And then the team laughs. And he goes, I'd probably be impeached if I didn't. And they laugh again. Okay. This is where she blows up. And it's like, come on, lady. If you think for a minute that Donald Trump isn't proud of the women's team, and this leads into the men's team being invited to the State of the Union. And she goes, I'm not sure. Or she goes, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels as if a bucket of cold water has been dumped on your head after listening to that. Now, I bet you pretty much are. I bet you pretty much are. If that phone call was able to wipe out your joy of a great victory, okay, and a great moment for American Olympics, then you got problems, sweetheart. Then you are just a miserable piece of flesh. I am sorry. Okay. I didn't see it that way, but she did. And she goes on to say, and she is absolutely right. Then she goes on to list all the women that had success. I don't think anyone has turned their back on the women that have success. Okay, but she kind of said, I didn't see him handing out praise for that or making phone calls for that. It's how do you know? Maybe he has. I don't know if he has or he hasn't. So don't assume things. And then, yeah. Given the NFL, here we go. Reportedly, or the NHL reportedly has the second highest percentage of right-leaning athletes out of the 5 major sports. And I don't know what the 5 are, what the 5th one is. It shouldn't come as a surprise. So let's look how they write this stuff. Okay. The NHL reportedly has, you don't know, but you go and you put this out there, this conjecture out there, and this hyperbole. Okay. And then she goes, if you're a longtime hockey fan, you knew hockey culture would rear its ugly head again. Dear God, woman. Dear God. And she said, in 23, multiple NHL cities players declined to wear Pride Night jerseys. Okay. There are people that have religious convictions. And there are people that have beliefs and values that are different than yours. Okay. But they feel just as strongly as about their beliefs as you do about yours. Yet you can't just allow them to live their life or to disagree because they're not your beliefs. And this is where I say this is all narcissism, because it's not about the issue. It's about you, lady. Okay. It doesn't, okay, if that's what you firmly believe, then you should have the right to not wear that. And if it is something that is a lightning rod issue, then maybe you shouldn't be interjecting that into something. But no, you must. Really? I tend to say, well, this is the only time I'm ever going to talk politics, because this thing upset me because I lived through the 1980 team. And to see all of these, these qualifying statements written in an article passed off as news, I just want to blow my head off. And I know there are going to be some people out there that say I probably should if they watch this. And then here's another beauty, right? And just last October, and I want you to listen to this, because obviously she thinks that the courts got it wrong. And just last October, the Vegas Golden Knights signed free agent goaltender Carter Hart. He was one of the 5 players found not guilty on sexual assault charges. Okay. In the Hockey Canada sexual assault case that had 2 juries dismissed before a verdict was reached. So what does that mean? What is she saying? She's saying, no, they were actually guilty. They just finally got the right jury. It is just unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And she goes on to say, it's especially disappointing considering the lip service the men's team paid to the women throughout the Olympics. First of all, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Because multiple members of the team attended games in support of Team USA. Right? And I guarantee you those guys, they have a brotherhood of hockey on their hockey team. But they have a brotherhood and a sisterhood about hockey. Right? You don't, if you are a hockey player, you're a hockey player. And you don't look down your nose at women hockey players, and certainly not at that level. Certainly not at that level. I can guarantee you that every guy on that hockey team, on that men's hockey team, was equally as proud of the women's hockey team. Right? And she says, to laugh at that joke, disparaging your teammates and peers who won the same accomplishments is incredibly disappointing. And I didn't see them as laughing at a joke. I didn't see them as laughing at the women's hockey team at all. You know, and saying team's embarrassing post-game moments with Patel and Trump. Really, he chugged a beer in the locker room. I don't think you want to know what a lot of other politicians have done. Okay. I always get into, she'd say, and then she goes on about Johnny Gaudreau's jersey onto the ice. Okay. So these heartless bastards take that out, and that's okay. But because they chuckled in a moment of celebration, she goes, that is what the lasting message of this hockey team should have been. I'll tell you something. That is what it is. That is the lasting moment. For you, it might not be, but for all of us, all of the rest of us, that is the lasting moment. The lasting moment for me is not the team taking Johnny Gaudreau's jersey out there. The lasting moment is the second picture when they had his kids. Not some sort of off the cuff comment during the celebration that was made that you want to get your ass out of you're totally. I'm so irritated at this fat broad that it's driving me crazy. It's driving me literally crazy. It's, you know what it boils down to is that it's like, lady, I'm going to point this out. And you're not going to like it. And you're not even going to see it. But I'm going to point this out to you. You're miserable. Half the time, these things are coming from people that are absolutely miserable with their own lives. And they don't do anything except get up in the morning and wonder what they're going to bitch about today. I, for one, am just as proud of Alicia Liu, who won the first gold medal in women's figure skating since Sarah Hughes did, who was so long ago she might have grandkids, for God's sakes. Michaela Schifrin, Breezy Johnson, certainly the women's hockey team. I have been outspoken about how great women's hockey is going. Now, she didn't attack me, but here's what I want to get to is that everyone's got to have an issue with something. So and they're wrong. And I'm going to show you the twisted logic, right? Because it's not about anymore. It is not about listening to what somebody says. It's about somebody's interpretation, right? So I talked about that LeBron would never say that. And I think That's my assessment. That's my belief. And that's my right to say it. And I think more people would agree with me than disagree that he would not approach that gold medal or celebrate it with the same amount of enthusiasm that Jack Hughes did. If you disagree, fine. Good for you. But I don't believe it would go down that way. So I post that short. And here we go. This is a guy that hits it up and says, don't make this a political statement. Okay. I didn't make it a political statement. Is it a political statement now if all I say is that there are two different personalities? One, how is saying that you love America and playing for America a political statement? That implies that you hate America. You got to have both sides in politics, don't you? So, in effect, I'm not looking out for the people who hate America. That's what he's saying. Okay, don't make it a political statement. I'm not. I don't see it as being a political statement. I see it as being a statement about somebody's personality and someone's behavior, but I don't see it as a political statement. Not at all. So he says, don't make it a political statement. Now, I usually don't respond to trolls, but this one chapped my ass, so I did. I said, there's not a single thing about politics. It's all about what motivates the players. And that's what I was saying. Hockey guys are built different. The whole premise of my argument was hockey guys, those hockey guys, USA Hockey was playing for USA. USA basketball players play for themselves, right? Because they skip the Olympics, right? I don't want, no, that's not an honor. I'm just going to skip it. Okay. They use their platform to make statements. There wasn't a single hockey player that used that to make a statement. Boy, there were some snowboarders, weren't there? And some skiers. It's like, that's not the time and the place. You're taking advantage of a situation. And when you do that, trust me, by watching the news, we're all pretty much aware of what the problems are in the United States. We don't need you to bring it to our attention. So when you do that, what are you doing? When you do that, and this is the narcissism thing, you're just trying to draw attention to yourself and go, look at how virtuous I am. All right? I don't really care, Mr. Snowboarder. It really doesn't matter. Go do some flips. And if you do them really well and they give you a medal, I'll be very proud of you, even if you're not proud of the country you did it for. So I said, it's not. If you disagree, prove me wrong with specific examples. Okay. I'm going to put your feet to the fire. Okay. Because I went out and looked, and if you think I'm wrong and you think it's political, prove to me that I did the wrong thing. Prove it to me. And this is where the problem comes in, was his response. Bro, we're not stupid. They teach us how to read between the lines in the 3rd grade. And then 3 laughing faces. If you're going to say it, just say it. Don't tiptoe around it. You look weak. What was I saying? I said what I said. I was pretty clear. Pretty clear in what I said. Why Jack Hughes said it and why LeBron wouldn't. I don't think I could have been any less straightforward. But that's the thing. They teach us how to read between the lines in the 3rd grade. Really? They really do. Okay. I thought they were still teaching us how to read the lines. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not so sure they're doing that anymore. Considering a lot of the recent numbers that have shown kids are graduating in high school and are completely illiterate, you know, which brings me to another thing that I found incredibly, I'd love to see someone do this. You got students walking out of class all the time. They're walking out of their high schools and saying, no ice, no ice, no ice. Okay, well, they got a hook. And I understand. It's your right to protest. It's your right to walk out, knock yourself out. But I guarantee you, because I know how most people were in high school, kids that age are just looking to do something. They hop on the bandwagon, right? when you're 45 years old, your mother doesn't say to you things like, well, if Johnny was going to jump off the cliff, would you do it too? No, kids are followers. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They follow what everybody else is doing. So they're going out and they're protesting this issue. They walk out of their class, and I highly doubt that any one of those students that have walked out of that class know the intricacies of the internal intricacies of ICE and our immigration control. Not a single one of them does. And I will push that even further. And I will say, I would love when they walk out with their signs, no ICE, no ICE, for someone to say, how would you change that sentence if you put an adverb in there? And I guarantee they wouldn't know what a fucking adverb is. I guarantee it. 80% of them don't. How do I know? I teach college kids, and I've asked them, and many of them do not. Okay? They're just going along with it. And I'm not saying it's not right to bring attention to it. Absolutely. If you don't agree with something, you should bring attention to things. But the priorities of what you should be learning are wrong. That's what I'm getting at. And I'm ranting, and you know what, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really care. I really don't care. But Brent, yes, the hockey players went out there and left it all on the ice. They do, and I'm not saying that the USA basketball doesn't leave it all out there on the ice. I mean, if you go back and look at, was it 2008? Kobe Bryant's performance in 2008 was remarkable. I mean, they play hard, but that's 2008. There's been a big change between 2008 and now. But that's where I kind of came down on this, and that lady writing that article. It's like, can't you just ever be fucking happy? Why can't anyone ever just be happy? It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And I don't know what Bible passage it is, but it's something that you want to look at them, but except they would say that you're being divisive by bringing up religion. But to say, let those among you who are without sin cast the first stone. Because I guarantee you that this woman's got some skeletons in her closet. And be careful what you wish for, sweetheart. She's probably wishing for some Ozempic. But we'll probably blame the administration because the costs are too high. But why can't anyone just be happy? Why can't you just be happy? And I know I'm not happy now, but I will be happy when this is over because I will have gotten it all off my chest. And that brings us to the State of the Union address last night. When I first put my thumbnail out on YouTube, I took it down and I changed it. And the reason that I changed it was it said Congress should be spanked. And this is how you have to think now. It's like, oh my God, I better not say that because someone is going to say that I am advocating physical abuse and attacking Congress, and that I believe that our Congress people should be assaulted, and then I'll get shadow banned. But you have to think like that. You have to think that way. You can't think like a normal human being anymore because no one is a normal human being. And I watched the State of the Union address last night. And what I realized in watching that is that politicians, and I'm going to go across the board on this, are the dumbest fucking people I've ever met in my entire life. And politicians, I will say this, and I will plant my flag in this hill, and I will go to my grave. And the reason politicians are in politics is that if they were in the private sector, in the real world, they'd be fucking fired inside of 2 weeks. They are so freaking incompetent and whiny. And the petulant behavior that happens at these State of the Union addresses is ridiculous. I'm not exactly sure where it started. Probably somewhere in the early 2000s. And you always had one side agrees, one side doesn't agree, and standing and sitting. But this has gotten to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. And it's like, come on, it's have a little bit more self-respect for the reason why you're there, because you're not there for your agenda. And all of those people in there that refuse to stand, and I don't care which side of the aisle it is, they did it the same way when Biden was speaking. You're just being a-holes, plain and simple. And it's not about, who was it, Warner said, I could not stay there any longer in listening to these lies. Okay, why did you get up and walk out? It wasn't to protest what was being said. It was so you could get the fucking soundbite after when people came up and asked why you walked out. That's why you did it. Plain and simple. So you could get the attention and you could put it on yourself. The USA hockey team flippin' rocked it. But because Trump introduced them, there were people who didn't stand. And it's like, you know what? That's not an FU to Donald Trump, you turd. That's an FU to the Olympic hockey team. And what you don't understand is I guarantee you there are people on that hockey team that are probably on your side of the aisle politically. And you just flipped them off and gave them the bird. They gave everyone in America a great moment. And between you that wouldn't stand when they walked in and applaud their great success, and that fat bitch who wrote the article, and yeah, I'm saying that, I really don't care. You're the what's wrong with this country. You are what is wrong with this country. Plain and simple. This is a great accomplishment. I don't care. It should not be political. They are making it political. And it should not be. It's the Americans won a great hockey game. And these guys walk in. Imagine this. Let's say you're going to get an award at work and you walk in. I don't know, it's Employee of the Year or something like that. And imagine you're getting Employer of the Year. And they're giving you the award, but there is a group of people that are sitting there at their big 8-round tables, right? And they're sitting there at their round tables, and they hate the president of the company who gave you the award. Has nothing to do with what you accomplished. I mean, you could have been the best employee that the company has ever seen. You could have brought in more money than everything, but because you hate the president who gave him the award, you're not going to stand for him. This wasn't about honoring the president. This was about honoring those guys who busted their ass. And you don't even have the decency to stand up and applaud for them. That's ridiculous. It's egregious. And they should be ashamed of themselves. I am not a Team MAGA, and I am not a huge Trump supporter, but I support human decency, for Christ's sake, right? Being respectful. And the stuff that they were pulling last night is absolutely freaking ridiculous. Who was it? Ilhan Omar, who was screaming out, release the Epstein files. They just fucking released them. For God's sakes. You know what? And this is what I have to say about the Epstein files. If Trump was in them, they would have gotten him by now. Okay? If he had done something, they would have gotten him. Because they will stop at nothing to get him out. We've seen that. But if he was in there, the hammer would have fallen. And I am not defending Trump. I'm analyzing a situation. Okay. And every time I have to say that, I got to predicate it with I am not defending Trump. Why? Because people will go freaking psycho and they won't hear what you're saying. And it's absolutely driving me crazy. He had the girl who was transitioned without her parents' consent. And the Democrats said, this is not this is a parental right. I can't wrap my head around this. And I'm not saying that someone isn't born in the right body, and I'm not saying that someone doesn't need to be transgendered, but just pump the brakes. You can get there when you're 18, because the fact of the matter is you're not an adult until you're 18 years old. So a parent, this is where I can't stand. Where is your head at when these people defend this stuff? Where is your head at? There's no consistency. You can't get a tattoo without your parents' permission. You can't get a tattoo without your parents' permission until you're 18, but they can cut your dick off and no one has to be told. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? You know, why not take a step back and put the person who is thinking of transitioning into counseling? And I'm not saying counseling to talk them out of it, counseling to help them ease their way through the transition and help them find out who their inner self is, so that when that change comes, they can be comfortable. No, we're not gonna stand for that. No, unbelievable. We're not going to. When the shot that they showed of the mother, here's the one that I can't believe anyone is that the whole world isn't completely up in arms in. And that one is the young woman who was on the train was it Carolina or Virginia, somewhere down there? And the guy came in, stabbed her in the neck, and she died. And saying we have to stop this sort of thing. And they showed the mom, and the mom was so broken up. It was heart-wrenching. And now we're not going to stand for that one ever either. Tough break. Too bad. Suck for you. It is just mind-boggling. I cannot figure out where their heads are at. And how they don't see things so basically, right? There is right and wrong, and you cannot convince me otherwise. If you can talk to me till you're blue in the face, you can dress however you want. You know, we had to listen to Follow the Science through COVID, but the science was bullshit. And when we say follow the science with genders, nope. You know, how doctors can get in front of Congress and ask if they can just, and you know they're dancing around because they have a political agenda. It's like, no, XXYY, end of discussion. That's how the fucking animal kingdom works. Okay, look no further. You can feel however you want. That doesn't make you are what you feel. And I'll let you feel and act any way you want. I really don't care. Okay, but don't say that you are, because you're not. As I've always said, you can't say that you're a woman until you have or you can't say you've gone the other way, either way, until you have the junk fixed. Then you made the change, but you can't go halfway. And that's the way I feel. And that's the way I feel. Chastity Bono, she went to become a man, but she didn't have the surgery, but she looked like a man, and she was on Dancing with the Stars. She was a man with very small feet. That's all I'm saying. But, you know, and that's the other thing. They get in front of Congress and they testify, and I can't go through social media without seeing, you know, snippets of this testimony shit. And It's always the same, whether it's Josh Hawley or someone on the other side badgering somebody, and they ask a question, answer the question, answer the question, and the person's sitting there trying to answer a question. Now, granted, they're trying to mark their words so they don't get twisted. And it doesn't matter what you believe. Answer the question. You're not going to answer the question, are you? Answer the question. I want my time back. Answer the question. This isn't about anymore. It's not about us. It's not about getting to the bottom of anything. It's about every one of these senators or congressmen or what have you trying to get the viral fucking moment. And that's how shallow these people are. These are the people we're putting into office, and they're doing it not because they want to get to the heart of the matter, not because they want to find out if there's fraud or if there's any injustice has been done. They're doing it for the virality of the clip. And if they're more viral, they'll become more well-known. And if they're more well-known, they'll get more votes. And if they get more votes, they'll stay in power. And it's about power and money, plain and simple. Look no further. You notice that a lot of them didn't stand when Trump said he was going to have that Truth in Trading Act. It's if you go and look at how much they go in and make them, what, $250,000, $270,000 a year, something like that. And someone goes in and in 4 years, their net worth goes from, 800,000 to 17 million. What the F? No one can do that. No one can do that. Every single one of them is on the grift. Every last one of them. And you will convince me otherwise. And all of those people grandstanding about the Constitution, I guarantee you could go. I would love to see this. I would love to see someone go pull someone from the House of Representatives right off the street, cold, and go, what is the 16th Amendment? What does the 16th Amendment say? What does the 8th Amendment say? How about the 20th? Because after Amendment 1, which is freedom of speech, Amendment 2, which is right to bear arms, which is, 4, search and seizure, 5, due process. Okay. After that, they couldn't name one until you get to 25, which would be the presidential succession that they want to get now use all the time, and how he's not qualified to run the country. Both sides use that one too. But no. Hey, why don't you run down the 8th Amendment for me? You would get such a circular bullshit response. It would not even be funny. But I'm sorry I bitched too much. But I when I read that article, and then I don't even watch the State of the Union address. And I went back and watched it. And what I saw, and it's not because it wasn't about the issues. It wasn't about the issues. It was about themselves. And there were issues that were brought up. And I will give Trump props for this. When he did the thing about the girl who was the girl who was killed on the bus, and we all saw the video, and the whole side of the chamber did not stand, and he turned and looked at them and said, "What is wrong with you people?" To me, that was a fabulous moment in that speech, because I felt the same thing. I don't have Trump signs in my front yard. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he's doing. Okay? I don't. But I agree with him calling out those dickheads. I mean, because here is a mother sitting there whose daughter was stabbed in the neck, and the whole world has seen it. And you can't acknowledge that in a positive way. That's why I'm saying Congress needs to be spanked. And it's also why I'm saying that everyone who is in Congress because they're too fucking stupid to be in the real world. Because half of them would be fired because they don't know how to do anything else. You know, I'm beside myself, and I may not even post any of this. And I thank you for coming along for the ride on this one. But damn it, you know, this is and this is what we got to do. Uh, I think this is the way we have to do this. We all sit there, and you've heard this comment hundreds of times, I bet. Oh, then one more thing. Okay, I'm going to do, before I say this, I'm going to say one more thing. If I hear white privilege one more time from a white person, I think I'm going to punch him in the throat. I don't know what, I guess I just don't know what world they're living in when a white person can look at another white person and say, oh, you're just white privilege. And it's happened to me and it's happened to my wife. Oh, that's just white privilege. Well, what the fuck do you think you have? It's there aren't degrees of that. There either is or there isn't. But that's what you're dealing with out there. You're dealing with these people that make these stands, these virtuous stands, but they've all got there's always exceptions to those rules. It's like I was talking about the neighbor who's got the diversity, equity, and inclusion sign in their yard, and then their bumper sticker is Republicans suck and this and that and don't do blah, 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 blah. And it's like you look at both of those right next to each other and you go, man, and people think that I'm mentally unstable. How do you tell me how you justify that? Oh no, we include everyone except those people. Well, it doesn't work that way. You either include them or you don't. And but it's not about, like I said, I have a feeling the white privilege thing. I think and I will say this, I think the people that throw white privilege out there to try and attack you for being, I'm saying the white people that throw white privilege out there to try and attack you. I think they do it because they know they're racist, that they are deep down, that they're racist. And this makes them feel good about their shortcomings. I could be wrong. I don't care, but I can believe what I want to believe. And that's what I'm going to believe. Sorry. But it's just driving me crazy. So the last thing I wanted to point out, and then I got a pretty good, I'm going to leave it on a lighter note because I got a great what color is the sky in your planet thing. Here's one, I just wanted to look at it from this standpoint, is that you hear the people saying this an awful lot. And they'll come out and they'll say, how did we get here? You know, how did America get here? How did we get here? And I was thinking about this the other day because someone said, geez, how did we get here? Well, how did we get here is irrelevant. It's irrelevant how we got here. It's absolutely ridiculous to waste any time trying to figure out how we got here, because the fact of the matter is we're here, right? We're here. How we got here doesn't matter. We are here. We are in this conundrum. So what you should be worrying about is how do we get out of here? Not how did we get here? How do we get out of here? I don't have the answer as to how we get out of here. I know the way I'm going to get out of here. And the way I'm going to get out of here, and I work very hard at it. Yeah, I'm pissed off right now. I am pissed off right now. But as I've always said, I'd love to have a t-shirt that said, another one is, I wish people were less concerned about me, or whereas, how did I write? I wish people were as little concerned about me as I am about them. Right? If you want to do whatever you want, fine. You're a human being. I happen to be a Christian, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And if you are a true Christian, you realize that God made everyone in his image. And that means that the transgender person is in God's image. that means the redneck is in God's image. It's not our job to sort them out. It's his. Our job is just to treat people with dignity. And I've had students that are transitioning, and I've had students that are transitioning, and I'm not sure which way. Well, and people say, how do you deal with that? And I said, it's quite simple. Um, After the initial, I don't want to say shock, but after the initial, whoa, okay, what's going on here? Then they're just a person. Okay. They're just a person that is there to learn. They're just a person who has feelings. They're just a person that might be going through something. And my job is not to pass judgment on whether or not they want to be a man or a woman. Okay. My job is to make sure that the information that I'm giving them is helping them advance. Right? I have to make sure they learn something. I don't care what they wear. I don't care about any of that. It doesn't matter, because when it comes to acquiring knowledge, there is no gender. There's just the brain. Knowledge about a subject, that at least the subjects that I'm teaching, knowledge about that, learning that skill, has absolutely nothing to do with body parts. It's about, do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? So how do we get out of it? I'll tell you how I think we get out of it. Here's how I think we get out of it. It's like I said, you just have to stop figuring out that you have to ethically and morally police the world. It's not your job. It's your job to accept people. And if you choose to associate with them, great. If you choose not to associate with them because you don't have their beliefs, then don't. But if you don't associate with them because you don't agree with their beliefs, that doesn't give you the right to condemn them. You just go, all right, all right, go ahead. I don't care. I don't care I don't care. I really don't. But if it's something that you're going to do to an underage kid, yeah, you know what? I'm going to care about that. There's plenty of time to make the switch. There's plenty of time. And the parents should be involved. And that is a non-negotiable. I mean, think about the arrogance of someone who's saying in a school district that we should not tell the parents that we are. You get some guy who was voted in by, on a school board, was voted in by 30% of the city, and probably less than that, probably 15% of the city where they operate, because no one votes in the school board elections. Everyone stays home or they miss it because they have to go pick up their dry cleaning. So you get some nozzle who's sitting on a school board who 896 people voted for, deciding what good parenting is. You can go fuck yourself. And I'm thoroughly convinced. I was thinking, well, maybe I'll run for something. And it's like, no, I'm not going to run for anything. I'm not that stupid. I got a brain. Why would I run for something? I'll let the idiots run everything. So, all right, I'm sorry. But I had to get that off my chest. And I promise you, we will not have any more of these discussions. In fact, I'm not even going to go to what color is the sky on your planet. I'm going to save this one for tomorrow, because this one is really freaking good. And I want to do it justice because it's awesome. So thank you for listening, because I just got it off my chest. I'm not an expert. I'm not proclaiming to be smarter than anyone else. I'm not saying that my beliefs and my values are better than anyone else's. All I'm saying is this is pissing me off, and sometimes you just have to speak about it. And if you don't agree with me, fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And it doesn't change me as a person. It doesn't make me evil. It doesn't make me uncompassionate doesn't make me evil. I just don't agree. And there is evil. There are people that go out and abuse people because they've made those choices. No, you just let them live their lives. And when you come across them, you treat them with dignity. You don't have to bring them to dinner, but you don't have to condemn them either. So I promise you, this is not going to be like this for these shows. I just reached a boiling point, and I thank you for sticking around. And tomorrow it's going to be fun again. But we're going to have Nick Leet on, who is a lead singer for a band out of Minneapolis who is called High on Stress, and they're really, really good. And if you get a chance, listen to them before tomorrow. We used their music. Before I switched my open, I was using his music underneath the new open here because I couldn't use the other music. And they're really, really a good band. So he'll be on tomorrow. Next week on Tuesday, I am introducing a news person. Yes, there's going to be a person who does the news. Not every day, but she's going to take a stab at it. And we'll see how that works out. But until then, as I always say, make good choices.
And that's it for this episode of KB's Unemployed Show. If you want to follow me on my unemployed journey, just subscribe to my channel below or dive into one of the playlists for all my unemployed action.